Hello and welcome back to Purple in Peril, a Warlock life. This is level 27. Purple is sitting here in Three Barrel Cove, gazing out to sea, maybe dreaming one day of journeys to far off lands, while the breeze blows the skull and crossbones flags in the harbour, and we can hear the sounds of the gulls in the background. Right, a shameful confession to make to start with, along the lines of I make all the mistakes in the game, so you good folks don't have to. You might remember if you saw episode 26 that I ran into trouble with my planar girds, these belts of greater heroism. I seemed to run out rather quickly of charges on these. These all last 11 minutes, so they should have been ample 33 minutes to finish that quest, which is roughly 25 minutes, I think, give or take. I realised that for this whole life, the mistake I'd made in transferring those items to my hotbar, I'd clicked on the same one twice. So when I used that particular one, two of them would go down to 0, and it took me until level 26 to realise. So shame on me. Don't make the same mistake. Otherwise, I was moaning, you might recall. I don't see how you could forget if you did see episode 26, about the derisory low armour class that Purple had at the time. So I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about that. And for homework, after the previous episode, I did a bit of digging into it to see if I could help him at all with this predicament. And I came up with one or two little solutions to try to help. First of all, I've reorganised the enhancements. We've gone full defensive now, more or less. There's just 1 point left in light and universal power. The rest is for PRR and MRR. There's no extra armour class in there. That's just by way of information. So that's like his end build, more or less. Instead of the 1 in light, I could have put 1 in intimidate there, heal, balance and intimidate, all of which are important to him. Maybe I should have done that instead of the light, because the light isn't particularly important. So I've basically just put 2 points there for universal spell power. Sorry, 1 point in there for two universal spell power. So I should have probably put it in there instead. The reason light isn't that important anymore, we're not using the Utter Dark Blast. I sat down and thought to myself, why are you still using this Utter Dark thing, this light, when your force, spell power and crit chance is as good as the light, and everything else you do is with force. You know, the tentacles and tempest are with force. There was nothing else. The only other thing that is on light at the moment is the apart from the base blast, which is now force because we've taken away Utter Dark, is the imbue, this thing, which is going to lose the lion's share of his imbue dice when we reorganise the epic trees. So he will have only 3 imbue dice, which come from the 5th core here. So I've abandoned the light for the base blast and gone with force, which tallies well with the tentacles and tempest, which we like to use. And that's got nothing whatsoever to do with the armour class that I was just mentioning. So I've dragged myself off the subject. Right, armour class. So I gained a point or 2 in here from not having Utter Dark. I've gained a point or 2 in here from not having the light enhancements. And I've spent a couple in there for more natural armour, +4 natural armour, so that's boosted AC. The other couple I gained I spent in here. This isn't armour class, but it's more defence. 3 PRR and MRR and 2 on will save, so that's not terrible either. Right, so where does the rest of this armour class come from? Because I might as well show you. We were languishing in the mid-60s at the end of the previous episode, and I've now managed to get up to the mid-80s. which is still fairly derisory for a tanky character, but bear in mind he has no martial past lives whatsoever. There is 6 armor class in the draconic tree, which we already had, but the 2 biggest changes I was able to make came from the sapphire augments. This sapphire of protection I got from the giant hold vendor, level 20 vendor, for 6 what are the epic relics called that you get for completing the giant hold quest. These things, restored relics, the ones with the purple border are the epic ones, and they're the ones you need for the higher 20 and over sapphires. In giant hold the vendors go up to level 24 minimum level. These other ones are the heroic ones, and they can be used for augments level 16 and below. I think giant hold vendors go 12, 16, 20 and 24. So anyway, I got this, where is it? Can't even remember where it is. Sapphire of Protection 8, so that's that gives a deflection bonus to armor class, which stacks with the armor bonus, surprise surprise, that the medium armor gives, and also the shield bonus that the shield is giving. So we've now got this deflection bonus as well, and you can get a natural armor bonus, which is there on those boots in the augment slot. Now the natural armor sapphire is not available, I don't think, from giant hold, but you can get it from the mysterious remnant vendor, I think, in the Hall of Heroes. They sell a whole load of useful augments, and once you start playing, or if you have already played on Elite or Reaper, you'll start seeing those mysterious remnants drop like confetti at a wedding. So you're going to have a nice stock in no time, and these augments are one of the nice ways to spend those remnants. So we've ended up with the natural armor, which stacks with everything else, and that's how we went from something like 67 at the end of the last episode to a slightly more respectable 84 here. So I was quite pleased with that. My target is still, what did I say, 160. That's what my main character has, albeit on light armor, but with all the martial past lives. If we can get to something like that, I know that we'll get 1 or 2 misses up at the cap. That's kind of what I'm aiming for. Just while we're here, you can see the fortitude and will save are pretty reasonable, I think, for upper epic. And once we get into Reaper, it balances out a bit, because we've got this reflex. We've got 9 boosting that. Very keen to get that 21st Reaper point for the big 100 hit points it brings. Right, so that was the armor class, the stacking bits and pieces that I've done to try and help it. The feat I took at 27 was Greater Shield Mastery, so that's completed the Shield Mastery line and given us I don't know if we can tell how many hit points boost we get, but basically each of those lines, like single weapon fighting, improved single weapon fighting, greater, all that kind of stuff, two-handed, 2-weapon fighting, the further you go down those lines, the more bonus hit points you get. So having gone all the way with the shield thing, which was the only one that made sense for this build, we have a nice bonus to hit points too. I was going to throw out an epic challenge to the rest of you to see if you could get any worse than Purple's 60 odd armor class with medium armor and a shield. I think we'll scrap that now he's managed to salvage himself somewhat. Right. I wanted to talk just for a minute about the strategy with the spells, because obviously purple has a pretty, I won't say rubbish for the level, but very mediocre considering that's his main casting stat, charisma. So if you haven't seen already, many things will be saving against his blast, so his acid portion of his blast will only be doing half damage most of the time. So how are we managing to get damage out of spells casted on the targets if they're always saving? Well, the nice thing about these things he's using, if we look at some of the descriptions here, this Tempest, targets first entering the storm may make a reflex save for half, but remaining in the storm they take damage with no save, and that's the biggest damaging spell he has. So as things tend to congregate around him, all he has to do is make them, cast the spell at point blank range and make the things stay in there, and they get no save. The tentacles, I think things are just going to take half damage in there. There's nothing about staying in there. But there's a slow which is not resistible, and they take at least half damage, so that's nice too. And then these two spell-like abilities, as far as I know, there's no save. There's no mention of any save there. So that's really nice, and particularly so because they synergize very well with his acid blast. Same for that. No mention of a save. And no spell resistance either on either thing. So spell penetration, not really a thing for those either. And for these two Warlock blasts, the only thing that gets a save is the acid half of the blast. It's a save for half damage. The force half they can't save against, so we're pretty good in terms of dealing damage without having to go past an opponent's save. So I just thought I'd mention the sort of basic strategy there. Right, I was umming and ahhing about which quest to choose for this one. In the end, I'm going to go for Tobias. I didn't want to because we've already done that one in Heroic, but I did mention earlier in the week in a discussion on maximising experience earned from quests that there are certain quests in the game. I'm going to say a select few, because it is only a select few in my opinion, where doing the optionals is absolutely worth it, and this Tobias is an example of one such. So as I mentioned it recently, I wanted to illustrate that if possible, if we can get through without dying. This is also, of course, if you didn't know, I'm sure most of you do, the home of the legendary... Where is it? It should be on his bar. It was here from the start of the journey, so where is it now? The legendary Blade of Jack Jibbers. And it's particularly legendary for purple because this thing is a very, very rare drop in this quest. It can take you, even running on elite, and I recommend you run it on elite or higher if you want a serious chance at it. It can take you dozens of runs with bad luck to find one. Purple just happened to wander in there in what was really his first proper foray into Epic last life, and this thing went and dropped, and I'm just sitting there like gobsmacked. I was just really running it for the experience. So, I mean, that's the point to mention. It is a good experience quest. So while you're in Epic, there's absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, it's a good strategy if you don't have one of these blades with running this thing once per day, picking up the nice experience. And if you don't get lucky at the end, well, you've come away with the experience. So it's not like that empty feeling of having run the quest and got nothing. That's my feeling anyway. More than once per day I wouldn't do, because there's a weekly ransack limit on the chests in the game of 8 anyway, I think. Right. One of these days we might actually get down there and try some questing.
Rumored to be a resting place of two-toed Tobias, an ancient three-barrel legend.
One thing I'm gonna mention before we get going. You might have seen it already on the character sheet here. We've boosted up the fortification here by finally going a little bit into the tanky tree. So we've taken 50 fortification, 1 on all saves, and finally the much sought after renewal. So I've got my 2 heals there for in times of trouble, and hopefully that should see us back to decent health more quickly than we were able to do in the past when they got past the temporary hit point wall. Let's just have a look where we're at now once we put the rage. So we're at 181 and 142 on the PRR and MRR. By tank standards, it's still rubbish, but by my standards, that's actually not too bad. So I'll take that. And the saves for the fortitude and will, in fact, even the reflex 50 plus. That's not terrible anymore, is it? In late Epic, it's not great by any manner of means, but it's a factor, let's put it that way. And we've got the armor class on 89 there. I've got my potions of force now instead of light and acid.
You are not the first to visit since the days of two-toed Tobias. The magic runes indicate small, fetid creatures shuffle about in the
And this is going to be our strategy. Use and abuse the big force attack. See, we've taken some damage there already, so 2 heals straight in. It remains to be seen when we get to the cap and we no longer have this evergreen thing to boost the spell points. I think I'll have to take some of the meta magics off the see, that's Reaper 4 and it absolutely destroyed them. I'll have to take some of the meta magics off the 2 big spells. Maybe with the long cooldown on Tempest I could get away with leaving them on that, because that really is devastating, as you've just seen. If they stay in there they just get hammered. It can be argued there's not as much point leaving them on tentacles, because we're only really going to do half damage with that anyway. My word, that is impressive. For those of you who have evasion or big balls, just go straight through there. I probably could actually. Go on, let's grow a pair, let's do it. Otherwise, you can go the other way, as you probably all know, to find the valve and disable that trap. Ooh. Welcome into my Tempest party, happy people. An uninvited Reaper has appeared. That's one of the nice things about this Warlock build. He's not really too bothered if he gets plagued in all but the most dire of circumstances, because plague doesn't do anything against temporary hit points. Now where are these? Aren't there supposed to be some popping out here? No, it's just me being an idiot. Maybe I was getting confused between the heroic and epic version. So the object of this exercise is going to be to show you that the optional kill 4 vampire pirates is so close to the main route through this quest anyway that you might as well just do it and get back the extra XP. So the first one here is literally on our route, and he's showing me up for the lack of damage, the bugger. Oh, hello. Okay, so the ship is down there, as you probably all know, and we're going to go here to the left. The next one is just at the end of this passage down a little ledge. But I'm going to argue this is still on the way. Oh, hello, mister. Reaper Central here today. So just round this corner, you can see the second one just down there. I'll try and deal with these before we activate him. So doubling up on Tentacles and Tempest. If you're wondering why I don't switch to single target blast, I like to keep the aura going for the temporary hit points it gives. I should mention as well, those sapphires I mentioned at the start, and any augments can drop, as far as I know, from any chest in game as well, randomly, including these champion monster chests. That's as far as I know. So pull the valve. So we had to go to that valve anyway, and the second pirate was on the way. The third pirate is on the way round here. Let's just see if we can open this chest. I don't think we can, because our charisma is probably too low. Yeah, 19 was a fail, so not today. So the third one is literally down here, which is on our way round. I made a mess there. I didn't get the big one in the big AoEs. Basically, watch everything I do, do the exact opposite, and you will be 100% fine in the game. I guarantee it. So that's the third one. We're approaching the ship.
A ship lies aground, down on the floor of this vast...
And we would have to go to this valve anyway. And the fourth one is right there. So as far as I'm concerned, that's a decent example of an optional that you would always complete when running the quest. The quest itself gives fairly decent experience, but if you add in the experience from killing these pirates, it's really nice. See, what did we get? 13 for that. Plus you get a bonus for each one, I think. Does it say in the breakdown here? No, it just gives it for one. But I thought we got a bonus for every one that died as well. In any case, I'm sticking to my story. It's an optional well worth doing. In fact, this one more than any other because of the potential for the gibbers reward at the end. You definitely want to make this part of your epic daily routine if possible. But so using and abusing the two big AoE spells, and at present at least they're fully meted, so that's helping big time too.
On opposite sides of the room are levers adorned with bullseyes.
If I didn't already mention, I like to carry a little returning dart just to hit these levers and same in other quests like this
open,
one.
Revealing dark waters beneath.
This valve placement is a bit of a sneaky one, it's easy to miss. Now this last room, provided you've got enough jump, if you've got a squishy character you can jump up on here and fire your arrows or whatever down on the guy down at the bottom, away from all the trouble.
It is said they hide a priceless treasure here. Yet there's naught in this hole but common bottle. Nor did you get your hands on those, you lover. Jack Gibbers leaves none behind to tell the tale.
What's he immune to? He looks to be, or has he just got loads of health? No? He's immune to... what? The poison he's immune to, okay. I'm helpless. Why am I helpless? What's gone on there? I'm not helpless. Had he stunned me or something? I guess it stunned me, the bugger.
You've defeated the
Good
legendary
stuff.
Jack Gibbers. Yet the pirate's legend claims the wraith inside the chest. You find
We
a
don't
piece of
find one this
Aratsri's
time.
treasure map, along with some other items.
As I mentioned, it could take many runs to find one of those things. To find it on your first time is insanely lucky. But as I've just shown here, don't despair if you don't find it, because the quest is totally, even if there was nothing of any value at the end, it's totally worth running just for the experience value. So don't be discouraged if you run it a few times in Epic and don't find anything. It'll come in the end. It's a simple law of averages. Some people just get it sooner than others. Right, I think I've waffled on long enough for that one. Night has fallen on the 3-barrel Cove here while we've been in there. I think that tells you how long I took to kill the Tobias character at the end. It's looking quite nice with the dulled lighting now. Right, I'll call that one a do. Thank you very much as always for looking, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care.